5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It is Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 266 is titled Stand the Diagnosis. What could it possibly be like to experience a child getting a life-threatening diagnosis? Where do you turn? We'll be talking about that at the table this evening, so please pull up a seat and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later on YouTube at Lunchtime in Rome. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, and while there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it'd be great if you gave us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes of the podcast. We talk about it for the rest. So it may not be 12:15 in Rome. We're treating it like it is Lunchtime in Rome.
Thank you, Rome.
Do those sound effects come through?
Oh yeah,
No, it's just us.
Just to keep our spirits up.
yeah.
They
You
make
can,
me happy.
I mean, you can watch the wavelengths right there. We'll
Oh,
go
yeah.
Oh yeah.
right there.
I love it.
Should have warned people to like cover their ears. People are driving, swerving all over the road.
Right. Speaking of driving, all right. There are several things that would bring world peace.
Yeah,
Very simple things.
yeah.
Shopping carts.
Drive in the shopping. Put your shopping cart back.
No litter.
No litter. Drive in the right hand side and pass on the left hand side.
Yeah.
And please, for the love of God, don't drive with your high beams on.
Oh,
And especially now with the cars with these fancy new lights on them, like you can't tell the difference between, like maybe they aren't,
Yeah,
and
they
maybe
are.
I'm just getting older,
Both.
like in my night vision and stuff. But I mean,
you are
come on,
getting
like,
older.
well,
They are
but
brighter.
They are brighter,
And
but
they are high beams.
there are people that have and it's so casual. Like I remember, like it was to me, it was always such a taboo. Like, don't
Oh,
drive
when
with-
you would do it, you'd be like,
oh my gosh,
so
I'm
sorry.
the biggest jerk. Like I could have ran you off the road.
May I?
counter?
No, not counter, but point something out, because I think the culprit is
Automatic stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No. So maybe in some cases it's probably.
yeah.
but-
I think it's more. It's happening more often. I think that's one of the reasons why.
But why do you say that?
Because
I don't think we have automatic high beams.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do on my car.
Yeah.
Right.
They are a feature, but
But wouldn't they also automatically turn off when there's other things coming?
They are supposed to, and that's
Yeah.
my point. Is because sometimes like it's either delayed or it doesn't recognize that there's another car coming, or whatever reason. And I will say this, I love technology. You guys know I love technology. I have a lot of technology, and there's some things that I'm just like, this is just making us lazier
And dumber.
and lazier and lazier.
100%.
And it's Brian, we did that driving training course when we were at Tyler, and complacency is the number one like issue when it comes to being on the road. And I feel like we're just headed down this tragic complacency path.
and I think like the next 5 to 10 years, until we completely get self-driving right, there's going to be this gray area of you're bringing all these features into cars, making people lazier, making people less engaged in actually driving. Like one of them, like you are driving a loaded weapon, and what we're doing is we're in this place where we're going, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Can I ask where you encounter this a lot?
Everywhere.
Is it like
All over Penn Hills, all
Okay.
over Murraysville.
So it's like
Everywhere I
local,
drive.
like in town
Everywhere.
driving.
And to your point, yes. And to your point, I think it's a little bit of all of the above.
It is. It's
but
everything.
I'm gonna say 25% is the automatic lights.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah. I'm with you.
when you see a 2003 vehicle with like the big old style bulb lights and those are on, it's like, yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah. I'm with you, buddy.
that's a world peace. Like if we could do that, we would have world peace. I swear.
Yeah.
We'd have Brian Peace.
You'd have what?
Brian
Well,
Peace.
I would be more at peace. I wouldn't having
That's
Not
frustrating.
Like I'm not having it's whatever.
Our Lincoln back in the day, you could do it with your foot.
Huh?
Oh, I remember
A
those.
foot switch.
Huh.
Yeah, I remember those too. Yeah.
With your left foot?
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never seen that. That's cool.
You haven't seen a 1979 Lincoln.
That's true.
Gosh, that was a great car.
Oh, I love the old car, especially like 70s.
I mean, we got like
70s era.
So much metal.
50
land boats.
miles to the gallon.
Oh, it's great.
Oil.
Yeah.
People always laugh. I've told the joke 25 times, 3 times on this podcast.
Still funny.
Yeah. Hey, earlier tonight, I was at your whole entire rant update.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I had.
Let me just say, I don't want to leave that like that's not
No,
my.
I think, let me just say, turn your high beams off.
No, that would be good.
I'm anti, just in case anybody's on the fence.
That would be good. But I don't want to like say leave the impression this week that that's my state of mind and my state of heart. I'm very, very good. Like there's so many good things right now happening. So that's where I'll leave it.
Good. I had something good happen tonight. Had a lovely dinner with 2 dear friends, and we went to Caliente's Pizza and Draft House, which was voted like best pizza in the
Is that
world. or whatever.
Aspinall?
We went to the one on Moss Side in Monroeville, basically Picker.
Ah, okay.
But Chris, as you'll be interested, they have what's so funny now that I think about it.
That
They
I
have a
would be
pizza-
interested.
Well, your wife would.
Oh,
They have
okay.
a gluten-friendly pizza. So then I said,
Not
is
free.
But I said, is it gluten-friendly, not gluten-free, because you still cook it in the normal
Right.
kitchen? She goes, yeah, we don't want to call it gluten-free. I said, oh, that's fine. But if you think about it, I don't want a gluten-friendly.
You mean like technically?
Yeah,
You
I
don't
don't
wanna-
want it to be friendly to gluten. I don't like gluten at all.
Right.
You want it to be like gluten antiseptic.
Yeah.
I mean, anti-gluten pizza.
I got you.
Yeah,
So-
anti-gluten pizza would be fine. But now it ain't no universal, which may or may not, yes, it did get shut down for
did it?
health code violations that they got posted, and then they tore it down, which is kind of awesome. So the pie wasn't as good as Universal Pizza, but they probably didn't make it with hatred and disdain and witchcraft like they do at Universal. But it's a lovely gluten-free pie. I'm perfectly clean, no problem.
That's good.
It's almost like it's reminiscent of an old pan Pizza Hut pan pizza.
I missed the beginning. Where is it?
Caliente.
It is Caliente. Okay. Yeah.
And that is, you're talking all the way at the
Right,
end
all
of
the way
Mon-
down by Sheets, the gigantic
Yeah.
speedway
The
that came out of
bowling alley
nowhere.
still there?
Yeah, Loke
Yeah.
Lanes.
Loke
Jim
Lanes.
Loke. Seen him naked.
Wow. Okay. Didn't have that on the bingo card for this podcast.
He was a member of Churchill. I worked in the locker room. Could say that about a lot of guys. Used to say it to kids when I was doing Young Life. They'd be like, "Oh, my name's so and so." I'd be like, I've seen your dad naked." And later on, I'm like, "That's not a good lead-in."
That was the 80s and 90s.
That's an icebreaker.
You know.
Oh, they remembered me. They always knew who I was. But then every once in a while, they get involved, and I'd like meet the parents, and I'm like, "Yeah, sorry about telling everybody so you knew." I didn't say anything about you. You know, I didn't say like, you know. If I said about his mother, that'd be awkward. Yeah.
That's a wonderful update.
That was only a few.
That's
Couple.
great.
I'm gonna bring everybody down for a minute.
Oh man,
We-
I was
yeah.
gonna ask you before the podcast for
Yeah.
an update.
So our little cat Joe Bell has been missing
no.
since Sunday. I think is the last time we saw her.
Oh, no.
So it's been like 3 full days now, plus a little bit, and it's just very sad.
Oh,
She's
it
so
is sad.
sweet. We have not. No, there's no good update to this.
No, or
definitive-
bad.
Or
Like, yeah,
bad.
There's
there's
no. Yeah, right. There is no update other than
She's an
It's been
independent
another
one,
day.
though.
We have a cat named Joe Bell. That's it, everybody. So
I thought you said you were gonna bring the room down. We're laughing.
Yeah. It is sad though. Amy, of course, we had her chipped when we first got her. Not Amy, but Joe Bell. And so I thought that was like a GPS tracker. It's not a GPS
Just an
tracker.
identification
Right.
once you have the cat.
Right, exactly.
You didn't
So-
air tag the cat.
Yeah, you gotta put an air tag on.
Yeah, right. So
On the chip before you put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just shove it all in there.
Yeah, sew it in there.
So the chip only works like if
somebody finds the
somebody
cat.
finds her and they go to like a vet, then the vet can ID the chip. Yeah. So it's been 3 days, so we're thinking like she is a very independent cat.
Strong
Like,
cat.
she's been out on her own. Like she has disappeared for a day before, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then she shows up like, she looks at you like, what? Nothing's
Right.
happening. But
Comes back with a bag of chipmunks.
Wrapped around her neck.
so I don't know. Of course, we're thinking the worst, but Amy
Yeah.
she's posted on. I guess there's a Penn Hills Lost
Yeah, there
Pets thing
Yeah.
on Facebook, or is it separate? Yeah.
Facebook, yeah.
Yep.
So she's posting on there, and
So she goes from not feeling well to
Yeah.
losing her cat.
right. Oh, Amy's
Good
doing
times.
great. Oh, she's doing so great.
That's
That's sarcasm.
And you hate that because then, like, the wind blows, a leaf goes by the front door, and you're like, "Was that? Oh, it's a leaf.
Uh huh.
Oh, was that? Oh, you hear noise. Oh, is that? No.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. So yeah, if anybody sees a mostly black, pretty small cat, she's actually a tortoiseshell, a tortie, so she has like brown flecks
I'm just gonna
on
throw
her.
this out there.
Just
What color feet?
mostly black,
Okay.
but one orange. This is her identifying feature. She has one orange
Oh, good. Phew.
front paw.
I almost ran over her. It was in my neighborhood. It was a black cat, but had like white paws.
No, it's just all black paws except for one is honestly orange, orange, orange. So like very distinctive. Yeah.
I hate that.
If anybody sees her,
But see, may I counter with, this is terrible. By the way, I think we should show good and bad emotional responding.
do the bad.
Yeah, this is why you don't have pets.
Yeah.
That was bad.
See, that's bad.
The accident out in front of your house last week.
Yeah.
I have information for you, but I can't share it on the pod.
Oh,
Well, that's good.
information on what, like who it
Who it
was?
was.
Okay.
Teaser.
Cool, cool, cool.
It was my mom's neighbor.
Oh, all right.
That's all.
All
Which
right.
neighbor?
You know,
Never mind.
the one he can't say.
If you're looking at the house to the right.
The coach?
No.
The other way.
Yeah.
What's their social security number?
Ends in.
But my good news is,
Yeah.
it's been a fun, festive week at school. For a week,
Wow.
for a Halloween week, the kids haven't gotten too crazy.
I was gonna say it's got it's probably madness.
It usually is. And I mean, you could tell the energy's picked up, especially like each day this week as we get closer to the end of the day. You know, it's just like, but overall, it's been good. Tomorrow, we've got our harvest parade.
I love that they like took the Christian out of Halloween. We don't want to call it Halloween. We'll call it a harvest.
Well, that's what
parade.
Christians do. They took the Halloween and made it harvest.
I think
So
it actually
what's
comes
school
from.
doing?
That's very Christian.
Yeah, I
Mickey's
think
book.
it comes from like
Paganism?
who is it? No, the
Columbus.
certain religious groups who do not celebrate holidays.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
I guess that yeah. So
J-Dubs.
like people who
Baptists.
can't do or won't do Halloween might do harvest. You know what I mean? Like so we still have some kids that don't participate.
A
but-
lot of Jehovah's Witnesses in McKee's book.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
A lot of Mennonites. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses.
We got some great Amish pumpkins at the Penn Hills Lawn and Garden now called the Steel Goat. Huge pumpkin.
Wait,
I'm
the
like, where did you
pumpkins-
guys get these pumpkins?
oh.
The Amish.
Yeah.
They know how to grow
They
a pumpkin.
grow 'em.
But I DJ the Harvest Parade at school tomorrow. So I'll be out there with my speakers and my Kids Bop Halloween Harvest playlist.
DJ Chris, baby.
Yeah. Does Kids Bop do like
Pump
Led
up
Zeppelin
the
and Def
jam,
Leppard?
pump
and
it
all
I
up.
that?
don't know. I'm gonna check it out. We have a great last thing too. So we have a Halloween costume contest at school amongst the teachers, like each team of teachers. So we're the specials teachers, music and art and gym and computers and all that. And our new principal this year, as speaking of being big on tech, Eric, she does the every resource is on her hub. She has created this like document on I don't know, Google something that we can all access that she just calls the hub. The hub. Do we have a question? Oh, check this spot on the hub. Go to the hub. Go to the hub. So what is our team for Halloween? We are the hub.
There you go.
And so we each have a different category. Like I'm safety and security. So I actually borrowed a hard hat from Hunter, Jay's nephew. And then we have like these big placards that we're going to wear that look like the menu of each category. So
That's cool.
We're going to have fun with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun. So I'll start with something fun. Maggie. So we love the school that Maggie's going to because they've been doing a lot. They've been to the zoo so far. Today they went to a farm. You know, they put them on a bus, went to a farm. She had a great time.
Which one they go to?
Triple B.
Okay.
Buh-buh-buh.
Buh, buh, buh. and I just think it's great. Like she's having all these experiences, and I think it's awesome. And like looking at like ahead in the years to come, there's just all kinds of cool opportunities for her that, by going to this school, which is great. And then the other thing, I think I mentioned this last week, but just kind of like the state of where we are. Like we're coming up on the anniversary of Amy's mom's passing, and things are just tough. Things are, emotions are a little bit more escalated. And it's, we're staring down a gauntlet of things
Firsts.
to do yeah, the first, yes, but like we're also like staring down like a heavy schedule coming up, something every weekend, all that kind of thing. And they're great things. Like it's not like they're bad things, but like it's it's just a lot. It's just a lot on top of too much, and as we like to say. And I'm tired. I'm tired. A little bit fatigued, but the highlight that I've recently had is doing Jay's website for his book,
Such a great job.
and
So much work.
it's coming out.
Well, the website wasn't so much work. Well, not to diminish, but I'm saying you've had to deal with much more than the website.
yeah.
Eric was like, "That's
Yeah.
news to me."
No, but no, the website's come out really good. There's still more I want to do, but yeah, let's go. Let's talk about it.
We could talk about that, but we should acknowledge somebody first.
That's true.
Yeah.
We should acknowledge those who sit at the head of the table each and every week. And that is Ashley, that is Bethany, that is Mary Lynn, that is the Hooked on Jesus podcast, that's Groot, Breaking 90, and Larianne. And so we are so grateful that they have gone to lunchtimeinrome.com and become a paid subscriber, and they help this podcast exist. Because we don't take advertisers. We just exist based on people who sit at the table and want to sit at the head of the table. And so we thank you so very much for that.
Very much.
And I'm grateful for each and every one of you people here in this room and those who sit at the table literally and figuratively in the support that I have received over the years in putting together the book, which officially pre-launched this week. Our marketing started for that. I've already received many, many offers. I am very popular. I have many other marketing agencies who have now reached out to me since we had our press release, and they want me to hire them as well.
You're on
they
a
can
list.
do a better job. Oh, I'm on some
You're
lists,
on
baby.
some lists.
Some use AI.
Oh, that would be just great.
Yeah. But no, I'm very excited. And this is the first of probably 4 podcasts about the book. And it's hard for me to a degree. Like, it's one thing to write the book. That was part of the process. But for me to be like, hey, this podcast is going to be about the book, like, that's a little bit awkward. But as I said off the air, I will say on the air, and I'm not stealing anybody's thunder because Chris and Brian have come up with some questions for me this evening to talk about it. But it amazes me how many families receive the news that their child has a life-threatening diagnosis. And I don't know of another book out there. Maybe there are. Maybe they didn't do a good job marketing. But I don't want to do that same bad job because I know this book will help them. Alas, there's a need. So I will stop talking now.
Well, what we talked about, we're going to treat Jay like, well, and especially the book, I guess, more than Jay, you yourself. Like, people listening don't know what it is. Let's get all the information right here, right now. So just, can you start with...
And wait, and I think that's a really good point as well, because through our social media, through the website, this may be people's first time listening to this podcast. So for a few people, this might be a review, but we want to do this for soup to nuts, beginning to end. Yeah. So you were saying.
So what is Stand?
Stand is a book that I wrote over a period of 3 years, now closer to 3.5, if not closing in on 4, that came from my experience, our experience, having a son who was diagnosed with neuroblastoma in 2010 and culminating in his passing in 2014. And my efforts to survive it, that I knew the minute he was diagnosed, I'm like, oh, it's on. Like, this is an attack. This is something this is not just the life of my son. It's the life of my son and my daughter and my other son and my marriage and my status my status as a viable human being. Like, it's all on the line. And so we battled that. And I think, and I haven't had anybody yet say to me, Jay, I don't think you did it as well as you think you did. Like, we did it very well.
Yeah.
And my heart always broke because we had so many resources. And I don't mean like books or organizations. We had people and we had a community. And I was able to navigate those waters well. And so I thought, well, how can I take that and bless other people with the knowledge and the wisdom that I gained over that experience? So it is a book that is 1/3 our story. Each chapter is our story. Then in that same chapter is what to do if your child's been diagnosed, or like your brother's child, immediate family. How do you survive? How do you stand when this attack comes? And then finally, in each chapter is, how does a community, how does a church, how does an organization, how do you best come alongside somebody who's trying to stand? So that is what Stand is. It's broken down not inherently sequentially. It's not diagnosis to death, for lack of a better term, but in compartments of different experiences people will face, so they can kind of tab through it a little bit.
Well, I was just going to say, I'd like to ask a very simple question. Now that we know what Stand is, where can you get it?
You can check the link in the notes, but it'll be available at Amazon if you look up. Probably the best thing to do is search my name, I would say, because there's probably other books called Stand.
Could just go to jmitlow.com.
One could go to jmitlow.com, and that is your one-stop hub for all information. If you want to share that information with others, there is a contact page and share page, and that's what I would encourage you to do. Maybe that's how you found us in the first place.
Yeah.
So what were the immediate emotional and practical challenges that you faced after the diagnosis? Obviously, there's I can imagine you almost detach in some way, but then there comes the point where, okay, like you said, this is real. It's on. Walk me through like the first 3 months,
Well, and I will walk you. No, 3 months is too much. If I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to back you up more because it's the month before. It started in early,
right, like warning signs, probably, or something, right?
Maybe late November.
Yeah.
Where he was, we're playing. He's 2 years old, and he was like, he couldn't get up, and he kept saying he was stuck. He would say, "Stuck." I'm like, "What do you mean you're stuck?" And like he got stiffer and stiffer. And so the image I would say is like a slide that starts out real slow. And so you're like, oh, something's wrong. And so we take him to the doctor. And they're not really sure. Okay, so we go to the doctor again. So we go to a specialist. Now we go to a children's hospital. So maybe it's a funnel. I don't know.
This is like a month.
Probably over a month. And then he finally got a diagnosis of some autoimmune disease that would flare up from time to time, treated with steroids, whatever else. And you're like, I don't like that, but whatever. And then we get the call, hey, you need to come in tomorrow, which was Christmas Eve. So it was a month up to that point. And you're sitting there going, well, they're asking us to come in on Christmas Eve. Well, that's not good. And I remember I said to somebody, and I wrote about it in the book, that I said to somebody, I don't care what it is. It just better not be cancer. And the person I was with said, well, you better not say that, which I also point out. Not great.
Terrible.
Emotional responding.
It's horrible.
Not great emotional responding.
Don't feel the way you're feeling.
Yeah.
Still think about it to this day.
Wow.
So then you get, and again, we go to Children's Hospital. We go to the 9th floor. Does it occur to me, hey, that's the highest floor? No. Does it occur to me that there's all the pictures of the Steelers and it's the nicest floor in the hospital? Does that occur to me? Nope. I remember going past the rooms and seeing the beds, and I kept saying, like, why are they in cages? Because there are bars all the way up to the top. And I'm like, I can't believe they put these kids in cages. Okay. Little did I know that you have to do that to keep them safe with the equipment that they have and everything else. Like, my kids slept in a cage for weeks. I would love it when they would close the cage because I'm like, oh, I'm not responsible now.
Yeah.
Didn't occur to me. Go in. Doctor says, blah, 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 neuroblastoma. And we both looked, Rachel and I looked at each other and we said, what is that? And he goes, forever I will remember, cancer. Your son has cancer. And it was the fiery, hot, disoriented, burning in your forehead. It was all right here. like you put lava on the inside of my forehead.
Right.
And you're you said detached. I would say disoriented.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know what is this?
Yeah.
And then everything just starts going, and they have doctors come in to do this, and a nurse comes in to do that. We're just going to do this over here. And you're just, you're dizzy. You have no idea what's going on.
Was it just the two of you,
Yes.
you and Rachel?
Yeah. Joe and Bella were at, I think, I even write this in the book. I write, Joe and Bella were somewhere.
Yeah.
They ended up at my mom's.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they were there all day. So yeah, just Rachel and myself.
I think it's interesting, something that you, maybe not to move the timeline forward too much, but one of the things that always, it sticks out to me because it is so you, where I guess one of your first thoughts after the melting of the forehead was, well, this is going to be wildly inconvenient.
What? I knew you were going to say that.
And like some people might hear that right now that don't know you or that would look at the situation. How could he say that?
Sure.
But
Oh boy, you do. So, well, shortly thereafter, and I was thinking, like, other significant things happened that day after the most significant thing, arguably, in my life, we realized we hadn't eaten. And mind you, Trey's in the room. Like, he's hanging out. So you can't, like, break down, sob, hug each other. And guess what? You ever had a 2-year-old? You have a 2-year-old pent up in a room
yeah,
where there's, like, 2 toys?
yeah,
So imagine in this moment, he may die and I may kill him.
yeah,
Like he's still a kid. You're still frustrated.
Yeah.
You're still a parent.
Yeah.
And so we realized we hadn't eaten. So I go down to the cafeteria and I'm supposed to get lunch for everybody while they're up in the room waiting for whatever, who knows what. 55-year-old African-American guy working the grill. What do you need, man? And I opened my mouth and I started to cry. And I was like, well, I'm crying at Children's Hospital in the food court. And I stopped and I went and I started to breathe and I went and I started to cry. And I was like, well, this is absolutely terrible. And it was such a cool moment. And I wrote about this in the book. He just looked at me and he goes, it's all right, man. And I was like, and so we got lunch, took it up. And then they came in to explain the treatment process. And here's the thing. Rachel may or may not ever really read the book.
Yeah.
We grieve differently. We process differently. She has supported me this entire time. I'm almost happy if she doesn't read it because she may read it with like a red pen.
yeah.
And just be like, wrong,
That didn't happen.
wrong,
Yeah.
wrong. Because I would say we were scheduled for 4, but it could have been 6 rounds of chemo, surgery very early on to remove whatever cancer they could. And then this and that, and the other thing. And this gets to your point, Brian. My number one thought was, I may lose my son. My second one was, and the exact quote is, this is going to be a lot of doing. And it was terribly inconvenient.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you've gone through it, and maybe not even with a child, it can be, it's different when it's a parent though. It's so much doing.
Yeah.
And at any given moment,
It's your story.
at any given moment, his first surgery was a Broviac line, which is a permanent port into his heart. So you can get medicine and stuff like that. If that breaks at any point in time, you are immediately sent to the hospital and you're in for who knows how long. Because you have to get it repaired, replaced, whatever else. If he spikes a fever at any point in time, because the infection, and kids with cancer, infection kills them not as much, but almost as much as cancer. So the minute you get a fever, boom, you bought yourself a 3-day. And so your life is never
Right.
at peace. So, you said, what is it like? What did you experience? The red hotness, and it was an emotional and a mental time of let's go. Like it was on.
Can you? So that my next question for you was, like you just talked about rolling through a bunch of emotions. I mean, obviously you're getting. There's got to be so much happening, and in the moment it's difficult to process, and you're just like reacting, whether it's the red hot in your head or crying in the cafeteria. Like in retrospect, what was the primary emotion of that night, if there could be one? Like were you
You said that night, that day.
Yeah, that day. I don't know why I picture it at night. I don't know why.
No.
Oh, you said Christmas Eve. That's why I'm thinking like, man, they're there at like midnight.
No, I mean confusion. I mean that's the number one.
Wow.
Confusion. Okay. It's not fear. It's not dread. Not anger.
Did you
shock? I guess is maybe confusion. Shock.
Did you have any moments where, again, it happens to a lot of people all the time,
More
but
than you think.
it happened to you,
Right?
And in that moment, those moments immediately after what the doctor said, what he said, did you have any like, it's probably not that bad?
Nope.
It was as bad as you thought it was. Yeah.
No, that was the bad. The maybe it's not that bad was the weeks before that. When a doctor tells you it's cancer, it's like, all right.
Right.
You know, and I think I have to ask Rachel, but I probably won't. You know, I think I said like, what stage is it? And he was like 4. And I'm like, and he's like worst. And I was like, all right, sweet.
So you found out that day,
Yeah.
the stage and everything. Yeah.
So you had zero illusion that this was going to just be, we'll just ride this out. Like, it's a blip in the radar.
No.
He's going to be good. He's going to pull through.
No, the battle was on. I knew it was a big deal. Like I said, whenever I could lose my son. And I remember I had to sign something that said, I'm full aware that my son could die in this treatment and or because of this treatment or from the disease itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're making me sign that. Okay.
I think it's important for people, I guess, first of all, and I think you said it, but you wrote this for people who are in a similar position as you.
Child receiving a life-threatening diagnosis.
Right. That's the audience. Did you have anybody in mind, like specifically as you're writing the book?
Yes, me.
Yeah.
No, but I don't mean to be funny. But that leads to, so we were there for hours that day. And they set up, okay, you're going to go home. You're coming back. I think it was like, I don't forget the days of the week, but in a couple of days to get his Broviac line put in and have his first chemo treatment after that. And so we didn't leave there. And I was supposed to preach at a different church that evening. So I'm calling people like, a lot's come up. I'm not preaching. And so we made it over to my mom's apartment where my entire family was to celebrate Christmas Eve.
Oh, gosh.
And before that, I already thought, okay, number one, we've become those people. That was one of the things that hit me first. Because when we were still in the discovery period of what is it, we had a meeting, we had to go in to get his autoimmune diagnosis at Children's Hospital. And he couldn't walk, so I'm carrying him. But I looked around at all these bald kids that I would see, and I would pray for them. And I was like, Lord, I pray for their families, and I pray for these little kids. And I remember feeling so good about myself that my kid is in here with some stiffness, some weirdo disease, but these kids have cancer. And I'm not praying for my kid. I'm praying for these poor bald kids and their poor families. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to have the bald kid. I'm going to be that family. But then, all right, we have two choices. We either have to circle the wagons and be very private, or we have to be those other people that have the Facebook page and have the wristbands and the T-shirts and everything else. And that's, I talked to Rachel about it because I'm going to be public about it unless she doesn't want me to be. And that's who I am.
Right.
And we came to the conclusion, well, if God has allowed this, then he's got a purpose for us in this.
Yeah.
And it ain't to be private about it. But I go back to when you said, when I wrote the book, we go into my mom's apartment and my entire family's there. Well, some people go home to an empty house. Some people don't have anybody to go to. And so you may not have our story, but you have your story. And so how can I write a book that enables everybody? So I just tell my story. Well, great. You're not me. It was, you asked me who did I think of, and that's sort of was the point. Go ahead.
I'd like to piggyback on yours, Brian. So I know like the primary audience is for people that in the same kind of similar situation. But as you were writing it and you were going through the process of like review and stuff, it came up that like there should be this secondary audience. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and because I was just talking about this, maybe at my dinner this evening. Rachel's very good friend's mother died, and when I was talking to her on the phone, I said, "Well, enjoy the lasagnas," and we both laughed. And at the viewing, she was like, "You were not shitting me about the lasagnas." She goes, "There's just too much." Why do I say that? Because there are two types of people when a child gets diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. There's two types of people in the greater community. Yes, there's the immediate family. That's the second part of the book. First part's our story. Second part is the immediate family. There are two types of people in the next group. And those are people who really want to help, but they don't know how, so they do nothing. And the people that really want to help and feel like they're experts. And so they do what they always do because they're experts in helping, and I'm a caregiver, and I'm a this and that. And very often they do hurtful or encumbersome things. Mm-hmm. One of the very first nights Trey was in the hospital, I came home and had to sort through 45 minutes of groceries and food that had been delivered to my house, which is a huge blessing.
And also,
I didn't need 45 minutes of work.
Yeah.
And I'm calling people to come pick up what I didn't want or I didn't take. You gave me a job.
Right.
And there is a chapter in the book called Thank You, I Guess, because of the things that people try to do for you. So the third part of each chapter is, how do you love this people? How do you come alongside of them? You know, how do you ask them what they need versus instead of just saying, hey, let me know what you need, because you just gave them another task.
Right.
Can I cut your grass? Ooh, there you go. I had 2 senior citizen men who fought over shoveling our driveway for those 4 years. It was awesome. And I'd be home. You know, it started when I was in the hospital for the night or whatever. And, you know, I'd be like quiet, like, so they didn't know I was up. You know, I'm like hiding and stuff. But,
So you don't have a driveway left? They were shoveling it for 4 years. Is it gone?
the snow is always gone.
Oh, that's what you mean.
They never did mow. But anyhow, that's the thing. Because your whole world changes. And you don't know. I don't know what the resources are. In a hospital, they bring the social worker in. And it's almost, with all due respect, like a Saturday Night Live skit. Mm-hmm. They've done this for years. You know, if you get a good one, they'll like look at you and they'll go, But if not, you're just getting, you know, here's how you get your parking paid for. This organization will pay for your gas. And I'm like, I live 10 minutes away. I don't know what you want me to tell you. This organization will do this. And you're like, I don't know. And it's just sterile and it's 99% financial. And then the chaplain comes in, especially like when your kid finally falls asleep in his little caged in crib. And the chaplain bangs on the door. Do you need anybody to pray with you? And I'm like, I'm a pastor, and I'm about to F you up real bad. Okay,
I need you to not knock on that door, buddy.
So there's not a lot of organizations. Pressing On is an organization that started after our time, and to a degree, because of our time. Richie and Reagan went through Children's Hospital for years with their daughter, having seen what we had been through and realized, man, there's a huge need. Mm-hmm. Some places have better help than that. But the bottom line is there really aren't that many there's certainly not enough quality resources for families going through this. There's a lot for after, you know, once the kid has passed, there's some good grieving resources, caring places where we went, and they were great. Really good for Bella. For Joe, he went because we got McDonald's afterwards. But, which is why I hope, you know, and again, I said this the whole time, it's sort of hypocritical that I wrote this book. Not that I didn't go through this, but if you would have handed me my book, I probably wouldn't have read it.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because Alexis said, for the guy that doesn't read books, he wrote one.
Well,
it is a little ironic.
It is. And by the way, thicker than you'd think. Now that it's come out, I looked at it and I was like, well, that got away from me a little bit.
That's a real book right there.
It is a real
Well,
book.
I think one of the most interesting things about your story that one of my big takeaways is you give permission. And what I mean by that is it's okay to say this is going to be inconvenient and this is going to be a lot of because
you think you're supposed to become a superstar parent.
Yeah, or you're supposed to act a certain way, or if you act a certain way, you're not doing it right. And everybody's going to find their way through this. You're giving a good template for it, but I think the bigger point is you're giving people permission to mourn. You're giving people permission to admit that things are going to be pretty, inconvenient. Like I think it's there's a lot about that. There's a lot of freedom in that too. You know what I mean?
When the entire book and the entire experience is yours, whoever you are. Mm-hmm. There is a chapter in the book called "Some Will, Some Won't," and that is there's people that are going to you're going to count on, and they're going to be there for you, and they're going to turn their backs on you. And then there are people that you don't even know exist at this point in time who are going to come into your life and be instrumental. So every story is their own. You might be happy, you might be angry, you might be sad, you might be all those things at once. But yeah, the book is about how do you survive it, not how do you thrive it.
Right.
Not, you know, we saw a couple get divorced. I mean, in a month. Like we met them in the playroom, and then I was like, "Oh, hey, where's Frank?" And she's like, "Oh, we split up." And I was like, "Well, that was quick," and it happens a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and so if I can help any parent get through this, then it's worth writing the book. If I can help any community become better at loving a family in this process, you know, I tell about it in the story of a guy whose his wife was sick, I think. And he started a GoFundMe. I've talked about it on the podcast before. And his pastor called him in and said, you should have run this through him before you did this GoFundMe. You know, we had a fundraiser at a beer distributor, brewery, I should say. Somebody put it together for us. And I was like, sweet, let's go. And I got side eyes from people. Like, oh, you know, at a brewery, you know, a lot of people struggle with the alcohol. I'm like, yeah, really? My kid struggles with cancer. So how about you shut up?
Well, and I think it like what Brian said, like it does give people permission to like have those emotions, because you know, like your example with the groceries, like you know, a lot of people they
feel like the worst people in the world.
They might feel like it goes to guilt, you know, but no, like it's an issue, it's a problem, and it's annoying and it's frustrating. And I think there will be a lot of people that read this that will, you know, have validation of like this is not what I need. You're not solving my problem. You're not meeting my need of blank, whatever it is.
If you think about the old phrase or the old books that you choose your own adventure, you know, you didn't choose this adventure, but you can choose the way you navigate it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to handle it this way or this way. And another chapter is on the hospital. Friend or foe is the name of the chapter. Are you going to go in and be like we were and be relational and buddy with everybody and do that? Okay, good. Then do that. Or are you going to go in and be adversarial? And I want to, I'm already prepared for, no, I'm preparing myself for negative reviews and criticism on the book. Inevitably, it's going,
which will happen,
well,
right?
Unless 3 people buy it, and they're all my friends and family. Right? You know, if this does what I want it to do, and one of them will be the advocacy, pro-advocacy parents. There are those who are like, you have to advocate for your children and don't let anything slide, and you've got to be their number one, blah blah blah, blah. And that's true. Right. I didn't have that in me. That is not who I'm going to be. I was going to be more like, hey, come on. You know, how's the wife? How's the kids? Are we doing good? All right. Do we really got to be here another day? You know what I mean? Like, I had to be an advocate. Again, choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle this? Are you going to be open and honest? Or are you going to close it up?
The other thing that I mean, I haven't read the book, but I hope that comes through. But what does come through and has always come through to me about this story is along the lines of the choose your own adventure. This is an eternal opportunity for you to praise God. All the things that we sing at church and you know, again, not a Christian podcast, but all the things we sing at church, all the moments, you know, call me out upon the water. I've never seen personally somebody in my life understand the severity of the moment you're in, not just the mortal severity of what's happening on the surface level, but the eternal weight of how you're going to react and how you're going to steward yourself, your family, and the larger audience through this, you know, and I think that you're going to be incredibly rewarded in heaven for how you took this moment and ran with it and really truly did glorify God, even when it hurt more than anything in the world can hurt. That's like, I just don't know of anybody else who's handled something this severe with this much weight with such true faith.
That was well put.
I appreciate that, and it's not it's nothing I've done that God gave me. You know,
that's the whole point of the gospel. It's the Spirit working in you to do things that you can't possibly do.
Yeah. Somebody said to me about a grieving thing I did for my family. And they're like, how did you know to do that? And it was funny because it took me back. And I'm like, I just came to me. Like, I just did it. Like, I don't know. And so it's sort of we're at this crossroads because I get it. God provided for me. Like, I'm not special. There's nothing about me that said, except for the training that I received with the Center for Relational Care, really equipped me to survive in a lot of ways. And that's a lot of what this book is about as well. The things we talk about at the table every week. But now when I go, why is this book going to be successful? How is it going to get out there? Why do I think I can do this? Well, it's the same God that got me through the battle is going to work through the book moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm no great writer, but God can do good things through my writing. Or maybe he won't, but I think he will.
I think it's an extension of the story that he started.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's, and again, when a child's diagnosed, my calling was to stay faithful despite losing my son. It was to use this as an opportunity to glorify God in the worst of circumstances. That may not be your calling. Your calling may be completely different. And when I say you, I mean anyone who has a child with a life-threatening diagnosis. And again, it's true also of grief and or tragedy of any aged person. There are people that I know that are excited to read the book because their brother who's 50 has a disease. It'll apply. There's a lot of crossover involved, but your calling, your walk with Christ, your challenge ahead of you, there's always another challenge. The one challenge is, hey, my loved one is sick. But there's always multiple battles within that battle. And I think the more you can be aware of what yours is and what God's calling you to do through it, the better off you're going to be. And I don't even know that I don't really even touch on that in the book. It's more just like, how do you stay alive? And yeah, God's there.
While we're on the subject of faith, like going back to early days, diagnosis, even beforehand, like what you're navigating unknown waters. What are you like? What did you lean on during those times, or where did you find? Like, you've talked a lot about, like, well, my focus was on, like, if God's going to allow this, I'm going to do, like, was there something outside of your own thoughts, I guess, on the process that you were, like, finding answers through, or?
Do you mean literally or spiritually?
I mean, both.
I mean, you pray like you've never prayed before, and you worship like you've never worshiped before. It's crazy to me. Now, Brian, you said, hey, we sing these songs in church. And I'm like, yeah, like I know many a Sunday we sing a song and I'm like, whoa, I used to weep like crap to that song, man. We just sang it. Children dancing, dancing, dancing.
Not to us.
Not to us. So you think of that, not to us, but to your name be the glory. So it's not about Jay and Rachel. It's not about Trey. It's about you, God. So you're going to get me through this. But then children dancing, dancing, I would think of Trey dancing. Whether it be now when he was still here on earth or if he would die to be in heaven, and that either way the kid's going to dance. I don't sing that now. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So the point is, because I already knew the Lord, I knew this was the time. So me and the Lord, okay, we're going. You know what I mean? Like I'm praying, I'm begging, I'm asking, and I'm searching. I'm not just waiting, I'm not just sitting on my rooftop as the floodwater comes and I'm telling the helicopter to go. That old analogy. I sent you a Jeep, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter. And so I'm looking and I'm calling and I'm finding resources. And, I called the center for once Trey's surgery failed. And so his death was imminent. 1 year, 2 years is what Dr. Shaw said. We got 3. I called the center, and I've told the story before, but we're treating it like it's the first time. I called the Center for Relational Care and I said, how do I build nets? From the last sermon, Randy Powell from Carnegie Mellon said he built, once he knew he was going to die, he built nets for his kids to fall upon once he died.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
And so I'm like, how do I build these nets and whatever else? And they're like, well, Jay, you're kind of our expert. Because we haven't had anybody that we've trained, and none of our staff have gone through what you're going through. And but my point is, I reached out. I looked for the resource. Here we go. Yeah. And that was almost a time where God was like, no, this is you and me. Like, no, I'm enough. And here's what you're going to do. And I mean, I spent hours thinking of different things that never came true. You know, like when he would die and everything else. And then he died quickly in the middle of the night once. And I was afraid of hospice and afraid of all these other things. So to answer your question, I leaned on anybody that would provide support as far as being physical, you know, help. Spiritually, I didn't have a lot of help above me, if that makes any sense. Like it wasn't like this chaplain took me in or this pastor came my way or whatever else.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to that question. And then, yeah, I mean, Rachel would go to bed at the hospital with Trey, hearing babies cry. And she would ask the nurse, and she's like, well, they don't have anybody in there with them because it's a single mom or a single dad, and they had to go home and they had to work the next day. You know, those are the people who this book is for. Like, how do we scrounge up? How do we get the community together to help you in these moments?
And then Rachel went and bye. I could see her going like.
She actually asked, and they're like, "No, you can't do
Yeah, I figured she couldn't, but I could see her wanting to.
To do what?
To go take care
To
of
go
all
hug
the babies.
the
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could totally see her wanting to do that.
You're almost nearly exactly 10 years out from this. Is there anything that hit you differently as you're writing this book, or were there any new revelations or insights that you came across?
No. To answer quickly. So this was the second book. The first book was a compilation of all the social media posts we had over the years. And when it was done, it was like 1,000 pages. And that's when I realized that's not a book. But even rereading all of those, and that was from probably, you know, Trey passed away in 2014. I probably started that sometime in 2015. And that took me several years because it took a long time. And there's moments where you're just hitting the gut, you know, and you would just sit there and I would sit on the couch and I would just remember, and I would remember the pain and I would cry. But then I would remember the people that cried with me when it actually happened. And so now writing this book, you know, it gears up to his passing. It's more, the writing was more of a processing and celebration of the victory that it didn't break us.
This writing here.
Yeah, this book, you know, and it was, and you know, there's 5 stages of grief, but then now they've said, no, there's 6. And the 6th one is purpose. And if you can attach purpose to whatever caused you to grieve, then that helps you heal. And that's very true in this case. Not the reason why I wrote it, but it certainly
Gives it purpose.
helps. Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in writing it, you know, it's so funny. There's different things I've shared with family members, just different screenshots. And they're like, well, that's too much for me. And they're crying and everything else. And I'm like, that ain't even that's the beginning. Like we didn't even get to the big stuff yet. But for me, I've lived with it so much. I've processed it so much. And again, a testimony to what true comfort is. If I think of the day of the funeral, I think of the crying faces. If I think of the viewing, I think of my guys in the back. If it's the worst moment, the 2 worst moments, the 3 worst moments. The first was when he was diagnosed. The second one when his surgery failed. You know, and then when he died, the insane intimacy that Rachel and I experienced that you don't ever want to experience.
Right.
Holding a mother.
Ugh.
I mean, the noises coming out of her, you don't ever want to hear. We were never more together than we were in that moment. Well, what an awesome blessing. What a great opportunity to have that. And so as I rewrite those times, those horrific pains, I'm able to connect the comfort that we received, whether it be from each other or other people around us. And so it's a completion of a grieving process in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, as tragic and awful as it is, is there some kind of bittersweetness in the raw discovery of God in a new way, discovery of your spouse in a new way? Like, well, you guys did it right. I mean, obviously,
I will answer you this way. I knew somebody who had a breast cancer scare. They went a week. You got to wait. You wait for the test, the everything else, and it came back benign. It came back negative. Oh no!
Michael Scott at the office.
And they said to me, the only thing is, they said, I almost said she said, and then I corrected myself to they said. Not that men can't get breast cancer, but it was a she. She said, in the past week, I've been so close to God. I've never prayed harder. I've never felt his presence more. And I don't want to lose that. And great comfort, Pastor Jay. I went, oh yeah, that's gone. I said, I have not experienced a walk with Christ like I did during those days. So is there an oddness to it? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been, yeah, it's just you rely on him for every breath, for every moment, for every bit of mental sanity as you're trying to get through something. When you're still angry at any of all three of your kids, knowing you very well may lose this one, and yet you're still at wit's end. Yeah, you never pray that way ever again. Till the next time.
Every illusion of strength, every illusion of control is stripped away from you, right?
Oh yeah,
and
not strength, but control.
Because
you can still rely on your own strength.
You realize the absolute enormity of your own vulnerability, and like when you get to that point, you're far past the end of any of your capabilities. You're far past the end of any of your anything that you can do to protect yourself. Like that is a crazy place to be.
And yeah, it is. And it's like, oh, this is real. And it brought me one of my phrases, which is whenever you say I do and you get married, you have no idea what you're saying I do too. I didn't sign up for this. But I will say this, and I say this to any family going through this. You're more powerful than you think. You're powerless to outcomes. But there is a way through this, and you don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be the perfect parent. You don't have to do everything correctly. All you have to do, coming full circle to my mother, is just get through it.
Yeah.
You have to stand. When the day of the enemy comes, you stand. You don't have to win. You don't have to conquer. You don't even have to advance. Just stand. And you can. And you're stronger. God is so much stronger in you than you think. Much stronger than you'd ever want him to be. You'd rather you could just coast through nice and easy, take a lower level in heaven, a smaller cloud, whatever. Like you said, I'm going to be rewarded in heaven. And first thought to my mind was, I hope it offsets the negative, the withdrawals. If those are my deposits in heaven. But you can. And there is a way through it. And you'll never be closer to God. And he will answer your prayers. Not all of your prayers are the way you want them to be answered. But when you ask for strength, you will find it. When you ask for wisdom, you will get it. When you ask for guidance and direction, you will find a path. And I can just only hope and pray that, my experiences and what I've written in this book go towards that and help you find that path.
That's a great way to end this episode. And the first of...
In theory, 4.
In theory, 4.
Is there anything else you want to say for this first episode?
Go to jmitlow.com, a very expertly crafted website. For those of you who have sat with us both tonight, maybe for the first time, welcome. If this didn't make sense, listen to it 3 more times. I'm just kidding. But for those of you who sit at the table with me and us, and those of you who were with us back then, just help us brainstorm how do we get this into as many hands as possible. We talked about it before the podcast, and I'm going to run these numbers at some point. How many kids per day are diagnosed with a life-threatening disease? And how do we get this book into their parents' hands? Not because I want to sell more books, but because I want to equip more people. And again, it goes to not the parents' hands per se. In my family, any one of my sisters would have torn through this book 6 times before we even got home from the hospital. How do we get in the loved ones of those people?
Yeah.
And so share the book, share the website, share our story, and let's see where God takes it.
And I assume this episode of the podcast will be linked on the website specifically.
It's above my tech grade, man. I don't know.
You can find the podcast on Jay's website.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's it. Episode 266 in the books. Join us next Wednesday live at 8:45 for episode 267. Between now and then, please give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, also at jmitlow.com. While there, take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.